Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel, Hands on Your Shoulders. And my name's Monty Joseph. I am currently a counselor. I've been in the counseling field for the last 30 years, and I am 33 years sober myself. My birthday's on December 20th. And this is the channel that we speak about, or that I take time to speak about addiction, recovery, and sobriety. And I think one of the things that kind of have to be that I want to mention is in regards to around the trauma piece. Um, a lot of people in their lives end up facing at least some form of trauma of some sort that they end up having to figure out how to deal with. And a lot of times, sometimes there isn't an answer as to what actually happened to them or a method of actually dealing with it, just given to them on a silver platter. So oftentimes those who have experienced long-term trauma, where it becomes like a form of PTSD, where it's happening on a regular basis, day after day. For instance, if a child grows up in an alcoholic home where they see mom or dad intoxicated or mom intoxicated, and there ends up being violence in the home, alcoholism in the home, and all of that has to remain like quiet and silent and secret. Okay. And over the years of actually having to experience all those kind of things that happen within that home, the mental, emotional, the physical abuse, the possible sexual abuse that ends up happening, that could possibly happen, those end up going unchecked for such a long time that eventually it does become a PTSD, and then that person ends up needing to find a way to relieve that pain, and they end up finding it either in pills that mom has in her dresser or dad has in his dresser, or whatever, or in the medicine cabinet, or alcohol that they find in the home itself, right? But here's the thing: is that it all comes out in behavior. It'll all come out in behavior, and that is how it ends up becoming really evident as to what a person has experienced. So when a person has experienced a certain level and a certain amount of trauma, uh, with those combined, their likelihood of actually becoming an alcoholic is higher. And I'm not saying every person who was traumatized becomes an alcoholic, but every person that has trauma, became an alcoholic, or every alcoholic who experienced, all of them experience trauma. Okay. Um, so when there is there is a list of things that makes it a distinction in between a person who is an alcoholic and a person who is not. Right? There is a test, and it's called the the MAST, MAST. And essentially, what it does is ask a series of questions, when added up, determines as to whether a person, is deemed an alcoholic or not. Um, and that's, that ends up being one of the manners of actually, um, it being determined as to whether a person is alcoholic or not. And some of that also has to do with childhood experience. Um, so if a child ends up experiencing a lot of trauma in their during their childhood, the likelihood of them becoming an alcoholic is a lot higher. Um, and so, yeah, that ends up just being one of the measurements in around whether a person ends up becoming an alcoholic or not. A person who goes out and has like a beer or two, or you know, gets intoxicated on their birthday, um, isn't getting intoxicated on other people's birthdays, but is celebrating within a measured amount and still making home safe and not restarting up the next morning, or getting in trouble from other people and telling them like they should stop or slow down or anything like that. So there's always obvious signs in regards to whether a person is an alcoholic or not. Now, if a person actually does feel like that alcohol is actually starting to take a hold of them a lot more than usual, then those individuals, as an individual, they can actually kind of take a step back and realize like, wow, I really started getting in there. um, I started really getting into the alcohol, and sometimes they end up being able to find their way out. But that's not the same with the alcoholic. They get in there and they stay in there and they don't come out for a very long time. And it's not until something very tragic usually happens in their lives, where also known as the gutter. The gutter is where they end up finding themselves, and then they end up saying, I quit, I can't do this any longer. Um, so with that addict, yeah, they are faced with a lot of challenges, a lot more than the regular person, because they are so, you know, bound to their addiction, and the addiction speaks very loudly to them. Got to find money to, buy more alcohol for tonight, or, hey, how about you invite these people and then they can actually buy the alcohol and then you can drink, and, or if you have $5 and some other person has $5, now you have 10. And, so it develops all these methods and thinking processes around how to get my next fix. And that ends up being, the reason why, addiction is so hard to fight, especially when the addict mind is so hell bent on keeping them there, right? Aside from that, I would like you to know that there are avenues to come out of that, to find some peace, um, and if you do start, there are um, counselors, there's programs out there that can actually help. And you may not agree with it 100%, but that's not the point. The point is to find ways to stay sober. And if it means actually attending a meeting for the first time, do that. It may not be the meeting you want to attend all the time, but at least start. And if that meeting doesn't work, well, there's a lot of other meetings out there throughout the whole entire week, that you can find at least some place where you can feel like you belong and that you feel safe. Okay. So, keep in mind that there are those programs out there, and that will at least kind of kickstart things for you, get things going in the right direction for you. I mean, it's not always going to be, sunflowers and, raspberries and, Skittles out there as far as that goes, but at least it'll be a start. Okay. And so in that, I would like to say thank you very much for listening. Have yourself a wonderful day. Be safe. Be safe. Oh my goodness. Um, be safe, have fun, and play nice with the other kids. Thank you.